All right, let's get into something a bit esoteric today. I've been reading Brave New World and the first chapter of Armageddon 2419 AD, but this one you might not be aware of. Oregon Revised Statute 558. Oregon uses ORSs, Washington uses RCWs. Each jurisdiction has their own little statute guide. Uh, you know, RCW, Revised Code of Washington. So, Oregon Revised Statute 558, known for dealing with weather modification. Yeah, we're talking about controlling the weather. Right out of a science fiction flick, Buck Rogers, like I said, just been reading the first chapter. But here we go. This was brought to my attention just not even an hour ago, listening to the X account Oregon Citizen hosting Representative Ed Deal. Somebody asked the question about ORS 558. I'll put the links in the description for both Oregon Citizen and Representative Deal. Oregon Revised Statute 558, playing God with the weather. Now, first off, this isn't about cloud seeding or some simple rainmaking. Back in the day, you got those, those movies where the guy goes out west and he sells the latest cloud seeding apparatus. Well, anyway, Oregon, uh, their ORS 558 dives deep into the legalities of altering weather patterns. Now, why would a state such as Oregon do this? Now, keep in mind, Oregon pioneered the what was called the bottle bill. Somebody took a look around and said, "Oh man, look at all these empty beer cans and Pepsi bottles everywhere." So they put the nickel deposit at every purchase for every can or bottle, and then kids ran around collecting them and turning them in and getting money. And now drug addicts do that to get their next fix. So Oregon has kind of pioneered the way when it comes to incentivized efforts to pick up after yourself. So let's unpack this. The statute requires a license. Ah, that wonderful thing. A license. You know, if you have to pay for it, it's no longer a privilege or a right. It's or rather, it's no longer a right. It's a privilege. So they're going after God, I guess. A license for artificial weather modification, which includes everything from cloud seeding to more speculative technologies. We've all heard the I'm Bill Gates and I want to build a thing to block out the sun. So it's about control, just like what a lot of people allude to about Mr. Gates' ambitions is also about control. Control over one of the most unpredictable aspects of nature, unless you live in Oregon, no, the western half at least. There it rains all the time. That's an overstatement, but you know what I mean. This is where it gets interesting or concerning, depending on your view. I mean, I've already touched on it. The fact that they're even licensing this should give you pause. If the state's willing to charge a fee to license, then something's really going on somewhere. So let's take a look and dig a little deeper into this. The statute talks about financial responsibility and liability for damages caused by these weather modifications. So if you mess up the weather, you're on the hook. If you don't remember, other people posted videos in about not even 6 months ago about Oregon restricting water usage regarding drainage for people having just gardens, small farms. So this isn't new. Oregon is not new, obviously, based on the bottle bill and this water restriction, to taking aggressive actions, for lack of a better word, to incentivize people to, comply. It's not just about making it rain on crops. It's about the potential for misuse. Think about it. If weather can be weaponized, what if it already is? You hear about, oh my gosh, the DEWs, the DEWs, the directed energy weapons. Any child growing up, most likely, who had access to a magnifying glass, spent time burning paper towels, pieces of wood, leaves, whatever, that they could focus, you know, as MacGyver called it back in the day, an optical pump, you know, a poor man's laser. So, right off the bat, most people hear weather modification, they think conspiracy theories. I grew up in an age where you had the movies, having the show, the salesman roll into town on a wagon selling a a faulty weather modification contraption. But when you have laws like this, it you got to ask who's benefiting from this control. Is this about environment stewardship, uh, or is it more insidious? I mean, we're coming out of the the revelations of gender, child, sex mutilation being, you know, hey, yeah, we knew all along this was bad. COVID, oh yeah, we knew all along this was bad. Um, these are good questions to ask. Oregon's known for its environmental policies, but this statute feels like the childhood sandbox, the one that the cats would all use in the neighborhood, uh, for them to play God. And the more you control the weather, the more power you have. Right? How often do you look outside and say, "Oh, it's foggy. I'm not going to do it. It's snowing. I'm not going to do it." Imagine if they decided to do another lockdown and they had the means to artificially control the weather, or somebody did. So the implications are vast. You could have natural disasters as a side effect. You could destroy local ecosystems. We see that potentially with Southern California with their focus on protecting smelt at the expense of every other animal in the surrounding forests and communities, as well as the people and the families. But the real kicker, nobody's talking about it. Even on the X uh, 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 episode that I referenced at the beginning, the host didn't know much about it. The representative, he was vaguely aware of it, but not enough to be able to speak on it. And I had to look it up and read about it to be able to do this. And I found it fascinating because if it's a statute, then it's something that's going on, most likely. So public discourse is obviously at a minimum. We're discussing weather and not acknowledging the elephant in the room. And that is the state is licensing it. So keep an eye on laws such as ORS 558. And if you're in another state or another jurisdiction, whether it's another country, whatever, look for similar legislation. They're not just bureaucratic jargon, they're windows into how much control over our environment is being legislated away from public oversight.